So today we're going to work on building a jig that'll make your life a lot easier cutting plywood and getting those straight lines. I fortunately have a piece of 3/4 left that has a factory edge. So if you don't, you'll get you a piece of 3/4, cut off the factory edge to roughly 3-4 inches. And then we're going to cut a piece of 1/2 inch plywood to put the 3/4 on. So now that we got our 3/4 piece and we got our 1/2 inch plywood, we need to get measurements off our saw. You want to know roughly how far it is from the wide end to your blade. You want to make sure we've got enough 1/2 inch plywood measured out. When we cut it, we'll have a piece that we can fasten our 3/4 to and make another cut to give us that straight edge. So I'm going to clamp this down. I measured out mine around 14 inches. Measured back 1.5 inches, and since I know this already has a true straight edge, I can line it up on the marks that I measured back from where I want it to cut 1.5 inches, because I know that's the distance from the edge of my blade to the outside of the saw. And I can clamp this down. Now that we got our piece cut, we'll move this piece over here out of the way. Grab our 3/4 piece. Knock off our dust. And I had marked this side already, showing my good side, so I knew that. So now that we got our pieces cut out, we know our good side of our 3/4. We're going to measure out roughly to about 1 3/4 inches. That'll give room. I like using them squeeze clamps, and that gives enough for that wide pad to fit right here, so I can clamp this down. Then we're going to take our glue, knowing our good side's this way. Put a nice layer of glue on the bottom here. To laminate this plywood to the other piece of plywood. Reach on across there and put a little more, a little more, a little more. Make sure we got plenty of glue. Hey, had to get my clamps. Flip a board over, find our good side, and lay that out to the wider side of the board. Find our marks we made. Line it up with the edge and our marks. Then we want to double check. Always double check. Measure twice. 1 3/4 inches. So I can put this clamp right here, making sure it stays on my mark. Then come around, and the shop boss is trying to come in the back door. Put this side on my mark. And that'll allow me to now turn this over, knowing roughly where it is, and we're going to put some screws in there to hold it. Now we're going to measure out You don't have to do this. It's not have to be science, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to measure in about an inch, make a mark, about 6 inches, make a mark, 12, about every 6 inches, other than the first one right at an inch, 18, 24, and we'll continue to do that on our other side. Once we have it all marked out, we're going to pre-drill. You don't want to go all the way through, just enough that you got a hole for your screws. Now, if you got time to leave it clamped up, you don't have to do this step. Just add a few extra clamps. But I need to use this here in a little bit. Shop manager's up here getting in the way. Now that we have our holes drilled, we want to use a countersink. So we can recess our screws so they don't cause our jig to stick up while we're using it. Now that we got all our holes countersunk, we're going to stick our screws in. This will help hold it till it dries. I'm just using a 1-inch number 6 that I had around. And you just continue to do this in every hole till you get to the other side. Help them pull that against and letting that glue dry. But we can still use this while we're waiting on the glue to dry. Once we got all our screws in, we'll go ahead and unclamp. And we'll flip our board back over and wipe off any glue. So a nice wet rag, just get in here. Make sure we clean this glue off on our side our saw runs on really good. Once you got it all cleaned up, we'll move on to our next step. So now that we got our board glued down, screwed down, cleaned up, we're going to take our clamps and clamp it down to our sawhorses here real quick. Now we're going to take our circular saw, and that's why we went a little wider, because now we can take our circular saw right against the fence and cut it off, and that'll have our exact blade edge that we're able to line up on to make our cuts on our plywood and keep them straight. But first thing you want to do, make sure you got your saw unplugged. And we don't want to cut through our 2x4. So now we're going to lift our saw up just so it's cutting through, like so. Plug this back in. or straight edge. So now that we got our jig built, let's use it. So the first thing we got to do is we've got to think of that curve of the blade. So what I've done, I marked on here, part I need, and put an arrow that way. So you want to keep the part you need to this side of your jig. So what I've done is I need a piece 27.5 inches. So come out and you mark 27.5 inches. And we'll do the same on the other side. And then we'll take our jig out there. We can line it right up on that line. Come back here. And clamp it down. And pick up our clamp off the ground. Come around the other side. Line it right up on that line. And now we're ready to make our cut. So now we'll lay our saw right up on this edge, right against our fence. Oh yeah, and remember, we've got to set our blade, because now we've added an extra 1/2 inch. So let's unplug our saws, come over here, see, we wouldn't have cut all the way through. So now we got to drop our blade, so it's just going through. And when we have that, we'll plug her in. Make sure our surface is cleaned off. Let that blade stop. And now we have our cut. Right at 27.5 inches. If we unclamp her, we've got a nice straight cut. And she's right at 27.5 inches.